This week on the Doughnut Box Podcast, we talk about the pastor smoking at the top of the hill. We caught him, and then he had a little talk with us. What did he tell us? Find out.
And then on the jail report, we find out a woman tried to bring her 4-foot emotional support animal that was a snake on the plane. Did she make it on, or did Samuel L. Jackson tell her there were too many snakes on that plane? Speaking of movies, on the Donut Hole, we test Micah's movie trivia knowledge. Don't worry, buddy. I gave some softball ones in there.
I hope it was something about that line from Snakes on a Plane, because I'll already know that from the intro here. And then we talk about what makes me angry about three groups of people, about politicians, big corporations, and individuals, and what they all have in common. So find all that out and more here on the Doughnut Box Podcast. Let's roll the intro. Hi, I'm Micah.
And I'm Chris.
And we've been friends for over 20 years.
Surprisingly, we haven't killed each other yet. Years ago, we started our own variety show, and it sucked.
Now that we're adults, we decided to give it another try. Like in the movie, life is like a box of donuts. You never know which one's gonna be the next one.
Wait a second, it's chocolates.
Oh, right. Okay, well, let's start the show.
This is the Doughnut Box Podcast.
Christopher, episode 13, season 4 of the Doughnut Box Podcast. Here we are, man, live and in color. If you are still listening to us over on audio there, we are over on YouTube at the Doughnut Box Pod. That's DOUGHNUT Box Podcast over on YouTube. Go check us out. You'll be able to see our faces and actually get to see us yak and talk in person with our faces, all that good jazz. So, man, how you feeling on this episode 13?
It's been great. It's another week, another regularly scheduled programming. I love how we're mixing it up. One week it's the free flow. Now we're back to our regularly scheduled Doughnut Box segment. So we got a great show today.
Sometimes we go in deep on some subjects. Sometimes we just segment it up. It's all great. So, man, we are going to get started with our first segment, which is our Old Fashioned Doughnut. And, man, I don't know if I told you, here in town, I found a place called the Old Fashioned Doughnuts. And it literally has some really good donuts. And I've been getting donuts and kolaches there before work last few days. But anyways, back to it. We're going to get into our Old Fashioned Doughnut, which is a story from our past. And Chris, this one is one of my personal favorites. It is when we caught a particular pastor smoking at the top of the hill of the church in which we went to. And like I said in the intro, we caught him, and then he had some words with us. So Chris, do you want to start this off?
Yeah, so this was a time where, and we always start off, hey, when we were hanging out in the church parking lot, we did that a lot before we moved to Texas. And so we were working the Dave Scamsey University, whatever thing. And what we would normally do is we would press play on the video, get all the audio straight, and then we would know how long the video was. So we would just go into the parking lot and drive around, do drag racing, or we'd go play basketball. So this particular time we decided to do drag racing, and we were just driving around. And I don't remember what caught our attention, because this church's property was very large, okay? I would say probably, I don't know, what do you think, 5 acres?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably. It had a lot of land to it, and especially a lot of parking lot space. Well, I mean, each Sunday between two services, we did run about 1,500 people, so it had to have a lot of parking lot space. But there was kind of a lower area, and then there was kind of an upper area. And I would say the upper area wasn't used a ton. There was also like a Christian school during the week, and so up on this upper area, there was like a playground up there and whatnot. And so I guess maybe that's why people kind of stayed away from there. And it wasn't really close to the building. It was kind of a far walk. They had to walk down this hill and all this other stuff.
Yep. So we were just driving around, and where it was, and Micah kind of shared about how whenever that girl wanted her to take them to the Wendy's or whatever it was just across the street. But there was a big gate with some woods back there that you could cut through if you wanted to walk through. You could cut into the what was it, the Popeyes parking lot? Is that where it was?
Yeah, the Popeyes parking lot. Yep.
Yeah, so you could cut through if you walked through. And we were driving around, and we were up the top of the hill, and we saw someone emerge from the bushes. And we were like, who is this person? Like, we don't know what's going on. And Micah, this is where I'll let you jump in and pick up the story.
So we were doing donuts at the current time, Doughnut Box Podcast. That's not where it came from, but we were sitting there doing donuts. And so we were at the top level here. And something else we really like to do is there was an area of gap between the top parking lot and the lower park. Now, it wasn't a huge gap. Like it was probably just 2, 3, 4 feet, something like that. But we would back all the way up to the fence where this playground was, and we would gun it and we would kind of jump off of there. And so we were doing donuts and all this other stuff, but we came back up to the top part of this parking lot and we see somebody walking, back kind of where that Popeyes was over to there. And it was dark, or it had just getting dark, kind of, I would say more twilight. And we had the headlights on, and Chris saw him first. Of course, I'm paying attention to doing stupid stuff. And Chris was like, bro, there's somebody there. There's somebody there. And just about that time, I look up and I see somebody like standing there, and I'm like, oh, shoot, right? And so we pull out because we were just doing donuts and doing some crazy stuff. So we're like, man, and everybody knew it was also my parents' car. So everybody knew whose car it was as well. So I was like, oh, man, like if it's somebody we know, we're going to be in trouble. But at the time, there was this homeless guy that was living, because this was also right next to the interstate. And those woods that Chris was talking about, he had set up like this tent over there and whatnot. And so we thought like, okay, maybe it's this homeless guy. And so I came up with the illustrious plan of, because what ended up happening first, I said, okay, what we're going to do, I knew an area of the building where we can kind of park the car around there. And so I move over, like we go and park the car around the corner of the building. And I tell Chris, I'm like, okay, listen, what you're going to do is we're going to hang tight for a minute and see if anybody comes over here, like follows us. Nobody followed us. So we're like, okay, here's what we're going to do. There was these bushes kind of in the area over there. And I was like, I'm going to go and I'm going to drive like crazy. Like I'm going to go crazier than we've been before. I'm going to distract them. And you go up in those bushes and you see who it was. And so, Chris goes and walks up the hill. He gives me a call. Like, I think you had just gotten a cell phone, like not too long before that. So you gave me a call and you're like, hey, I'm ready. Like I'm in position, or like, I think you were like posted up right before you got to the bushes and like, all right, I'm about there. So I get out in the parking lot and I start going crazy. And when I say I was going crazy, like I remember rolling down the window and hooping and hollering. I don't remember what I said, but I was just like, I was like hooping and hollering and like doing like donuts and like just going crazy. And so did that for like 2-3 minutes. And then I went back to the spot around the building, kind of the hidden spot. And so at that point I called Chris, and Chris had like walked down from the bushes, and I was like, well, who was it? He's like, bro, I couldn't tell. I couldn't really tell, but like, I think they were smoking up there. And I was just like, what? And so I was like, okay, we got to see this. And so he and I both then like went up to the bushes and we start looking, and there was a bench right out front of the playground there. And that's where we saw it. That's where we saw a particular person smoking. And it was one of those things where we couldn't tell what they were smoking. We could just tell they were smoking because it was nighttime, right? So it was like you could see the red ring of somebody smoking something. And Chris, what else did we see there?
Well, so we just saw the outline of the guy, and we knew it was, I'm just going to say Pastor. I'm going to say his first name. I don't care. Pastor Roger. We were like, is that Pastor Roger? Because it looked a lot like Pastor Roger, but it was twilight. And Pastor Roger had a background, he had a really rough background. He was in a biker gang, and he he had lived a really rough lifestyle, and he gave his life to Christ, and then he became our outreach pastor. I guess that's what you would call him. And he was the one that was in charge of the homeless ministry. So I was like, is that Pastor Roger? I was like, that's not Pastor Roger. Like, and again, at the time we were like good Christian boys. So we're like, Pastor Roger wouldn't be smoking up there. Like, what's he doing up here on a Tuesday night? That's not Pastor Roger. And I was just kind of like,
there's no way.
Okay. Yep. So everything went. Do you remember anything else before we move on?
I just remember he walked into the woods again, or we thought he like walked into the woods. I think it was, we went back up there another time and like he was gone. So like, I think we thought he went into the woods. And so I remember getting back into the car and driving around again to see if we could draw him back out of the woods or something like that. And I remember being like, yeah, homeless man, and like yelling all this stuff. We were being so dumb, and like nobody came back out. So we were like, whatever. And so we went back inside and no big deal. And then Sunday rolled around. So this was Tuesday to then Sunday. And I'll be honest with you, man, I kind of forgot about, like, I didn't forget about it, but it wasn't really on the forefront of my mind on Sunday morning of like, hey, this whole thing happened on Tuesday. But what ended up happening on Sunday morning?
Yeah, so we walk in like everything's fine, and we're kind of, shaking everyone's hands, talking in the middle of the lobby, and Pastor Roger comes up to us. And now Pastor Roger was a very close talker, like very close. And he was also one of those, like, because he had done so many drugs in the past, he had a few
Homie was fried.
Yeah.
Homie was fried. Like, I hate to say it, but he was fried.
That's how he would look at you. And so he came up to us, and I remember we were like, hey, how's it going? And he like pulled us in really close. Like he kind of like shook our hand, pulled us in real close. And he was like, you boys need to be careful driving in that parking lot. He was like, it'd be a shame if I told your father, what kind of driving y'all were doing. And then y'all wouldn't be able to serve on the homeless ministry anymore. And we were just kind of like, me and Micah looked at each other like, so it was Pastor.
Oh, it was you.
I just remember him being like really quiet.
Yeah, I remember the first thing that he said, though, is he's like, I know what y'all did on Tuesday night. Like, I remember that was the first line he said. He's like, I know what y'all did on Tuesday night. He was like, he's standing there like this, and then he went on to that whole spiel. And I'm sitting here, and he goes, it'd be a shame if I told your parents about what's going on. And, and then he's like, if anything else were to happen, it's like, if I see you doing that again, I'm going to go tell like the head pastor, like I'm going to tell him directly. Yeah. And that was definitely a threat too, because we had known some other people who had like done donuts and stuff like that. And the groundskeeper, I remember like he made them like do free labor for out there for a while because of all the skid marks that we probably were putting out there. And so anyways, so I remember that was kind of a thing, but I just remember telling Chris, I was like, so it was him. And then we tried to figure out like, okay, what was he smoking out there? Like, was it cigarettes? Was it something else? But yeah, it was hindsight. I'm glad that we don't have the adult knowledge that we did now, because because we really didn't say anything to her, just like, yeah, okay, like we won't do it again kind of thing. Like, I think we just kind of brushed it off. But I remember telling my father about it, and he was just like, I don't really care. What are y'all supposed to do on Tuesday? Like, you don't have anything else to do. He's like, I don't really care. And so it wasn't that big of a deal. But I just remember from then on in, it was like, what was he? Well, I'm still curious to this day. It's like, what was he smoking up there?
I have a funny story about Pastor Roger. So I think he was doing it out of goodwill. I'm going to assume he was doing it out of goodwill. But I remember one time we were down at the homeless ministry, and they would do church underneath this bridge, and then they would feed all the homeless people. So Pastor Roger would do worship, they'd do a message. I remember one time and we would go down there, set up, and then put everything away. So I remember we went down there, and I remember towards the end it was like everyone was cleaning up, and I remember he went up to this homeless guy, and he was like, hey brother, like, love you, have a good time. But like he gave him like a hand thing, and in the hand he gave him like, there was like $1 bill like in the hand, and he did like the drug deal like handoff with the money. I never saw what was in Pastor Roger's hand. I'm not accusing him of selling drugs, but I was just kind of like, that's kind of weird that he gave him the money like that. That's a little, maybe he was just trying to be discreet about it, but I just remember him giving him like a 20 and was like, oh, here you go. And it was a real sly pass off. I was just kind of
real sly. Yeah, man. We had some interesting times with the homeless ministry. I'm going to go into one other one too, is you'd see all sorts of stuff down there, right? And one of the things that I remember, we actually were going to go down there and film. You remember this time we went down there and we were going to film with old Timbo Slice, and we were going to go film with him. And it was for this little, I think he was just doing kind of a promo video for the church or something. I don't remember. But I remember it was this whole hype up of like, okay, there's going to be a miracle today. I remember it was like this whole thing. It's like, oh, there's going to be a miracle going on. And like, miracles definitely can be performed. Don't get me wrong. But it's typically not one of these things of like, you know about it in advance. Like, typically it's just something that ends up happening. Okay, you're on site. God's like, I'm going to perform a miracle. Here it is. And so I was like, I'll be honest, I was pretty revved up of like, okay, what's the miracle? And I was just like, I remember they pulled this like elderly lady out of the crowd, and she was like in a wheelchair and she was blind. And I remember they like started praying for her to like stand up, and she was like 90. I remember she was like, do you remember that? She was like 85, 90. She was like an old elderly woman. And they're like, stand up and you're going to receive your sight. And I was just like, I do believe in miracles, but Pastor Roger, I don't think this is like, maybe this isn't the one. And I just remember like the poor old woman was just confused. She was like calling for her son, and she was like, Ray, what's going on? It was just like, and here I was all revved up like, oh yeah, there's going to be a miracle today. And it was just like, maybe not. But that was just to give some kind of context, that was the kind of guy he was, is like he would kind of rev these things up and it would kind of always be just a bit off. Like you could tell his heart was in the right place, but it would just be off.
Yeah.
So
there were a lot of things at that church that was like performance based. And I remember, and I know we're going a little bit long on this segment, but they brought in a guest speaker one time, and he was like known to be like a healer.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
Put that in quotations marks, just because I believe the Holy Spirit heals. I do believe that 100%, but I do believe that sometimes people can try to like use that as a way to make money. And so there was this particular boy in our church who had cancer. And I remember as soon as that guy came, like they were like, no, we're going to put this kid first, and he's going to get healed tonight, and he's going to get healed. And then I think they said he got healed of cancer, but I don't remember. I don't really remember. I just remember them making a big deal. It was like, no, we need to find this kid, and he's going to be healed tonight. And I was just like, okay, cool. Like, I'm all for that. But like, they were trying to turn it more into like a drumming things up type deal.
Yeah. And this wasn't just one of these like healers. He was like a televangelist as well. Like this was like, I remember the TV production trucks and all sorts of stuff. And speaking of homeless ministry, on Thursdays we would like prep the food for Saturday and things like that. And I remember like started on that Thursday, and it was like supposed to be like a revival into the weekend or whatever. And they had the overflow room in the gym, which was like right next to the kitchen. And so I remember like watching this, and it was like the Believer Healers Network or something. And it was just like, man, I don't know about this. But what I think is crazy was, and, maybe there was people from the area. I don't know the full story, but I feel like a lot of other people were plants or something like that, because nobody else that was going up on stage and getting healed were from our church besides that one kid.
Yeah.
Like besides the one kid, it was like, I didn't know anybody. So it was just like, I'm not 100% sure, but I just remember us and a lot of the people who were cooking in there would like, yeah, I don't feel right about this. Like there's something just not right. Like you could just have a feeling about some of that stuff. But yeah, there was plenty of interesting stuff there. We could go into, we should do a whole episode about the weird things that we saw. But anyways, talking about weird stuff, let's move on to our next segment, which is the Jelly Donut, which is our jail report. And Chris, I'm sure we got some weird things. You said something about snakes on a plane. Man, let's get into it. What do we got?
Oh yeah. So most of these are Florida people's stories. You gotta love the great state of Florida. And I know you'll appreciate these. All right, so a Florida man was taken into custody around October of, I don't remember when this was, but he was driving a truck that resembled law enforcement vehicle. Okay, and so
it's easy to do. Yeah,
it's just easy to do, and that creates a lot of problems if you're getting pulled over. Now, let me describe to you what he was trying to mirror. So he drove a truck painted similar to a U.S. Customs and Border Patrol vehicle, but instead of it saying Border Patrol, the truck read Booty Patrol.
Man, oh man. Yeah, I've seen some of those stickers before.
Yeah, it says the incident report states that deputies discovered the driver had, quote unquote, multiple run-ins with law enforcement due to his truck, and even has a TikTok account for his vehicle. And so back around this time, the sheriff's office asked drivers to keep an eye out for the quote unquote Booty Patrol vehicle, as it been spotted in several other Florida counties as well. So yeah, but here's my question. So you know how they have talked about there are people posing as law enforcement officers and they have the lights and the sirens, and then they pull people over. Well, how do you know it's a real cop or not? Because they have unmarked vehicles now. So it's like, do I pull over? Do I not pull over? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And then the other problems that I've seen, especially in the area that I live in, there's a lot of construction, like street construction. And I've seen a lot of them, they'll install like police style lights and they'll have like little police stickers on the side of just normal vehicles. And so a lot of times they do that just so people will slow down, or it gives people like the construction folks access to different things and like whatever. But it's like, if those people flipped on their lights and it says police on the side, like, how do you know whether to pull over or not? I mean, I don't know. And then here's another one from my area too. And I always gripe at my wife for this one. There is a construction company. It's called Pulice, like Pulice. And they have those style trucks too, with like the lights and everything too. And they'll have like Pulice on the side of their vehicles, like, and on the back of their vehicles. And it'll always be painted black. Like they'll be painted black. And so you're sitting here, I'm just like, that should be illegal too, because it's like, I don't know who you are. It's like, if I didn't know you were a construction company and things like that, and the only reason I know is because their headquarters like around the corner from my house. But it's like, if I didn't know that that was what that was, I mean, these people could put their lights on and it's like, man, they could pull you over and you wouldn't know it.
Yeah, that's wild. That's wild. All right, next one. This is the one I alluded to in the intro. Okay, so a Florida woman tries to bring a 4-foot, quote-unquote, emotional support snake on a plane. Snake was discovered by TSA and was not allowed to board the plane. This happened when the lady was going through security. She put the snake in her suitcase, and they found it in the X-ray machine at the Tampa International Airport. The TSA said security officers found the snake curled up inside a carry-on bag. The passenger told officers that the boa was her emotional support pet, and then the agency checked with the airline, who confirmed that the snake would not be allowed on the plane while loose inside a suitcase. So I'm guessing if it was her emotional support animal, she probably need to put it in a special
something. Here's my question. Can you get paperwork for that? Like, I know you can for dogs and cats, but can you get some emotional support paperwork for a snake? I didn't know you could. Maybe you can. I don't know. Here's my question. The style that she had it in, if she just had it in a bag like that and was trying to sneak it through security, here's what I am wondering, though. I don't know if you've heard about, especially like the really rare snakes, there's like a big market for smuggling snakes and things like that, or exotic animals, especially if they're like breeding snakes or whatever, and like can get more or whatever. I don't know. Who knows? It might have been that, but an emotional support snake, that's a first. I've never heard of that one before.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but a snake is not going to emotionally support me. It's going to stress me out.
I got one side story for that. So I had an ex-girlfriend whose mom had 2 pythons, big ball pythons, and she used to let them sleep in the bed with her. Like, she used to let them sleep in the bed with her, until one day she went to the vet and she was kind of concerned or like confused, because she would wake up and the snake would be like in a straight line, like wouldn't be curled up, but would be like in a straight line, like next to her. And the vet said, oh yeah, that snake is sizing you up. And like, basically it's sizing you up to see like, can I eat this? And that's what it's doing. And then after that, it was like, nope, I'm not sleeping. It's like, man, why would you sleep next to the dang snake in the first place? Like it was wild. Anyways, go ahead.
Oh my gosh. Okay. All right. This is not an arrest story, but I just threw it in here because I figured you would appreciate it. Apparently, there's a viral phenomenon going around, and it's going to be an insane athletic showdown on Earth. It's branded as the most insane athletic showdown on Earth. Apparently, this year, there's going to be the inaugural quote-unquote Florida Man Games, which include beer belly wrestling and a quote-unquote evading arrest obstacle course, in which contestants jump over fences through yards while being chased by real police officers. According to the organizers, the competition is actually planned for this February in St. Augustine, Florida. St. Augustine. So what do you think of the beer belly wrestling? And I figured you'd enjoy that.
Yeah, no, that's great. So the first part sounded more like, do you remember, so going back to our church, we had a redneck party at one point, and they had like redneck games. And apparently in Georgia, there is something called the redneck games, where they have like, toilet seat horseshoes and all sorts of crap. The first one reminded me of that, the beer belly wrestling. But the Florida man evading arrest obstacle course, that's great. That's fantastic. Especially with real police officers, that's great. It's fantastic.
All right, this next one, and this is the last one. Police in Florida say a 23-year-old man went through a McDonald's drive-thru and tried to pay for his order with a bag of marijuana. News outlets report say that a fast food worker denied the trade and Mr. Gallagher drove off, only to return again a short time later. Police arrested him Sunday on charges of marijuana possession and driving under the influence. So he said, hey, I ain't got any money to pay. Will you take this marijuana? So,
I bet you if the shift leader was on duty, he would have taken that as payment. He's like, that's just a little bit of work. If you ain't never seen the shift leader videos, the little reels, they're funny as mess. It's like, I bet you he'd have taken that. But now that's insane. I mean, you must be on some serious weed if you think that you could be given that as currency in this day and age. But hey, whatever, man. That's wild.
All right, well, that was our jail report, and we're going to move on to our next segment, which is the donut hole. And Micah, we've got some movie trivia for you today.
Let's see how I do.
Oscars are coming up pretty soon, but
I tried. Are we going to watch Will Smith get slapped or slap somebody this year?
I don't know. Hopefully. All right, I made them relatively easy. I made sure these were all movies that you probably have seen or are familiar with. Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. Question number 1. Which film is considered the first full-length computer-generated feature? A. A Bug's Life, B. Beauty and the Beast, C. Toy Story, or D. Prince of Egypt?
You know what? I'm going to do Bug's Life. I feel like that one was what was it? Was it Bug's Life?
It is Toy Story.
Man. Well, hey, it was a pretty good one. I'll say this. The reason I thought Bug's Life, like, even though it's a good movie, it was definitely probably a step down from Toy Story. Like, out of the list, that was probably the worst animated film. Not like it was bad, but I would think that would probably be like the first computer-generated one just because it looks like it. But
so apparently there's a running joke that the movie was so bad that they're never getting a sequel. If you think about it, every other Pixar movie has gotten a sequel, unless it's like an original standalone. But Bug's Life, they're like, yeah, we're not doing that.
Yeah, they're not doing that one.
It was considered a fail. Okay, in the movie The Matrix, what color pill does Neo take? Is it A, blue, B, red, C, orange, or D, yellow?
It's take the red pill.
Yep, that is correct.
Blue pill, red pill.
Which 1980s horror movie opened the same weekend as The Empire Strikes Back? A, The Exorcist, B, The Crow, C, Nightmare on Elm Street, or D, The Shining?
I don't know why I'm going to say The Shining. Was it The Shining?
That is actually correct. It opened the same weekend, and it did not do as well because it was released on the same weekend, Memorial Day weekend, as Empire Strikes Back. So
isn't The Shining No, I'm not even going to say that. I was about to say, isn't that an M. Night Shyamalan movie? But it's not.
No, that's with Jack Nicholson. I think it's a Stanley Kubrick film.
Maybe. Yeah.
All right. This one is not about a movie, but it's about a movie theater. What city was Alamo Drafthouse founded in? A, San Antonio, B, Dallas, C, Austin, or D, Lubbock?
Hey, man, it's called Alamo Drafthouse, so I'm going to go with San Antonio.
It's actually in Austin.
It was Austin? Oh, man.
Yeah.
Why are you going to call Alamo Drafthouse and not be in the Alamo City first?
For those of y'all that are not familiar with Alamo Drafthouse, it is where they serve food to you while you're watching the movie, but it's also really big about no talking, no texting. They take that like really serious.
They'll kick you out.
If you're texting, they will kick you out.
Here's my question. Do you actually like Alamo Drafthouse, or do you think it's overrated?
I've only ever been to the one in Lubbock, and when it first opened, it was good, but definitely, like, it's good for snacks, but, like, the food itself was kind of pricey and not that great.
Yeah.
There are other theaters that I prefer to go to. I do like that they play old cartoons before the movie, so.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Number 5. Which is not an actor who has played the role of Batman? A, Ben Affleck, B, Russell Crowe, C, George Clooney, or D, Mark Hamill?
I don't think Mark Hamill did he?
Sorry, that was a confusing one. There's actually 2. Mark Hamill did not play Batman. Neither did Russell Crowe. So that
Yeah,
one,
I was like,
that one was my bad.
hey, that's okay. I was, I knew Mark Hamill. I was like, maybe Russell Crowe did like a weird cameo or something, or maybe you were counting like a cartoon or something.
Yeah. All right. Which is not a movie directed by Tim Burton? A, Coraline, B, Batman, C, The Nightmare Before Christmas, or D, Sweeney Todd?
Oh, name them again.
Coraline, Batman, The Nightmare Before Christmas, or Sweeney Todd?
It's got to be Batman, right? Because that's the only one that doesn't really fit him on the list.
It's actually Coraline. Batman and Batman Returns is
the Tim Burton film.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Both of them are Tim Burton.
Wait, but he didn't direct Coraline. I could have swore
Nope.
that's
A lot
like
of
right
people
up his
think he
alley.
did.
Yeah, that's like
Yeah, a
right
lot
up
of
his
people think
alley.
he did, but nope.
Okay.
All right, number 7. In addition to Tarzan, what other Disney soundtrack has Phil Collins been a part of? A, Lion King, B, Cars, C, Bolt, or D, Brother Bear?
Oh man, I feel like it's either A or D. I'm gonna go with D. Brother Bear. Wasn't he a part of that?
Yeah, Brother Bear.
I haven't seen that movie in forever.
I've only ever seen that movie once.
Me too.
And
once, like way back.
so, funny story, with the only time I ever saw it, so my babysitter told me that she was going to take me and my brother to go to the movies, and she told us that we were going to go to Looney Tunes Back in Action, and then we were like waiting around all day, and she showed up like at 7 and was like with her friends. I remember her friends were cussing and everything, and she was like, yeah, we're going to go see Brother Bear, and I was like, but you said we were going to go see Looney Tunes. So,
Liar.
Yep. All right. 3 more. Yep, 3 more. Actor was the target to play Aragorn in Lord of the Rings. A, Mel Gibson, B, Russell Crowe, C, Leonardo DiCaprio, or D, Clive Owen?
Man, was it Leonardo DiCaprio?
It was Russell Crowe.
Russell Crowe. Okay,
Could you imagine?
Yeah, that would have been interesting with Russell Crowe.
All right. This is like a really old one. Buddy Epson, who played Jed Clampett on the Beverly Hillbillies. Did you ever watch that show?
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
So
show
you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
All right. So he was the original actor cast to play the Tin Man in The Wizard of Oz, but quit the role for what reason? A, he had a filming conflict with his schedule. B, he assaulted one of the Munchkins on set. C, he was allergic to silver paint. Or D, he got drafted in the war.
The funny part of me wants to say B, that he assaulted a Munchkin, but I'm gonna go with D. I'm gonna say that he got drafted because I feel like I remember something about that.
It's actually C, he was allergic to the silver paint.
Oh,
Yeah,
he didn't
like
insult the Munchkin.
he had the role and everything, and then when he put like the makeup on, he just had really bad allergic reactions to whatever was in the paint, and then he couldn't do the film.
That's interesting. If you've ever watched that show Mythbusters, they did a whole thing about gold paint, the same thing about how, like, maybe you're not necessarily allergic to it, but that lady who did the James Bond film where she got painted gold, like she had like a whole bunch of health issues while having the gold paint on. And they even did that with Jamie Hyneman, the guy on there. And he even had like his blood pressure spiked and whatever. And it has nothing to do with the paint, but maybe like it clogs up something in your pores, but it's something that's not really understood. Who knows if he was actually allergic to it, or if it was just something to do with that kind of paint just kind of messes with people. I don't know.
Interesting. All right, number 10. There are 3 movies that are tied for all time for the most Oscars ever won. So they've tied at winning 11 Oscars, okay? Which is not one of these movies on the list? A, Ben-Hur, B, West Side Story, C, Titanic, or D, Lord of the Rings, Return of the King?
Ben-Hur. I don't think that one has won 11 Oscars, did it?
It's actually West Side Story.
Really? I thought West Side Story would have. But hey.
So West Side Story won 10. Ben-Hur, Titanic, and Lord of the Rings, Return of the King have all won 11, which is surprising.
It's funny because there's only one movie in that list that I actually like. and that's Lord of the Rings.
You didn't actually like Ben-Hur?
Not too much.
It's
Not
a
too
long
much.
movie, though.
It is a long movie. And then Titanic, I mean, don't get me wrong, for the timing, I will say this. The animation and all that stuff for the time, great. If you look at it from that standpoint, great. The storyline, the acting, some of the stuff, And maybe it's just because I had to watch that a ton and all the women are like, Titanic. Anyways.
But Ben-Hur is like, it's a good story. And he meets
it
Jesus
is a good
at the end.
it is a good story. I don't know. Maybe it is just because it's long, and I only did watch it once, and it was when I was a kid. So maybe it's just like for a kid that would be pretty boring of a
It's
movie.
a really long time. But like it's a really good.
Maybe I should watch it again. This thing. Well, all right, man. Let's move on to our next segment, which is that was your last one, right? I'm not.
Yep, that was
my
last one.
Okay, cool. I was like, make sure I got the count right. But man, I'm ready to get into what fries my donuts because, man, I've got one that really fires me up. I've been fired up all week about this. But what fries my donuts, America, is the two-facedness that is in this nation right now. I'm sick and tired of this. And what I mean by that is I hate how we live in a world where people will say one thing and the action shows something else. I see it too often. I'm going to start off with three, and I told you in the intro, we're going to talk about three groups of people. We're going to start off with the politicians. Politicians have been doing this for a long time, so I'm not saying, oh yeah, okay, whatever. However, politicians, they'll campaign on values of integrity, morals, even being Christian-like. But then they accept donations from oil companies, big pharma, people that'll kill you for whatever. And then, again, these Christian values will be pushed, but yet they're cheating on their wives. They're doing all sorts of things that are immoral. And then they're passing laws against people, against certain classes of people, against certain diversities or races of people, things like that, which is unchristlike. But at the same time, they are portrayed as, oh man, these are great Christian people and all this other stuff. And it just proves that they're just trying to gain support from these people for the money and the power. Next, companies, big corporations. I'm tired of seeing it. We're talking about Black History Month. One, I've always thought it was messed up that Black History Month gets to be the shortest month of the year, by the way. That's real messed up. But two, companies will proclaim, Black History Month, gay pride, whatever you want to throw in there. But they will preach a message of inclusion and diversity and everything like that. But every one of their leadership is of one class and one group of people. And they'll promote and say, oh yeah, diversity and whatever. But if you look at their hiring and promoting statistics, they will actively hire the same group that they are a part of again and again and again and again. They will have rallies saying, oh yeah, Black History Month is great, but the moment February is over, you won't hear nothing about it no more. And all that it is, it proves that the motive is for money. It sucks people in and goes, oh, well, guess what? That company is about, minorities, and that company is about diversity, and that company is about, really being inclusive. It's like, no, they're not. They're capitalizing on the trends of what is going on. That way you can get sucked in so that they can get more money. Now, I'm going to talk about people as individuals. There are people that are out there that speak kindness, respect, don't judge. We shouldn't judge people and put other people down. But the first thing they do is judge and put other people down. Like that's the first thing they'll do behind closed doors. They'll talk to their friends. They'll say, you know what? And it could even be 2 seconds after somebody happens. It's like, oh yeah, we shouldn't judge anybody. And it's just like, that guy, he's a piece of crap. And here's why. And da, 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 da. And what it is, they'll mock somebody's appearance. They'll mock somebody's. It's all based on their standard. It's all based on the single person standard. And if it's not to that person's standard, there's not a lot of let's let people live their life. I might not agree with what they do, but let's let people live their life, and everybody is different. This is the standard, and here's what I want to have happen. And so for me, I'm going to even throw Hollywood into this list. I say it in the order because politicians, corporations, Hollywood, they set the standard for what individuals see as, leadership in general that's what people see and that's what people emulate. And so a lot of people wonder, why is our society and why are we in the place that we are today? It's because the top, and we know this, everybody is individuals. If you go onto the street and talk to a lot of people and say, hey, corporations are pushing these agendas just to make money, people go, oh yeah, I know they're not about Black history. I know they're not about the LGBTQ. I know they're not about the standards. I know they're not about minorities, diversity. I know they're not about that. I know politicians aren't about that. I know that they're just trying to get the money for all this other stuff. All I'm saying is we wonder why individuals are two-faced and incredibly selfish and are preaching one thing and, doing another. But we learn these things from the top, and I'm really, really sick of it. And what ends up happening is a lot of these individuals are still making it okay. I'm going to use the Fast and the Furious theory right now. How I feel about the Fast and the Furious, and if you like the movies, great. Past a certain point, it got ridiculous. Let's be real. And it's kind of been like that in our society. Okay, there's been some things that, hey, you can go, hey, that's fine. But at a certain point, it's gotten ridiculous. But people just keep going along with it and keep giving these corporations money and keep doing, it's like, you know what? We're just going to let this happen. It's fine. They're doing the bad stuff, but hey, they're doing other good stuff, right? We don't know what that is, but they say they are, so they must be doing some good somewhere. If you stop paying for it, they stop making the movies. If you stop going and watching Fast and the Furious, they stop making the Fast and the Furious movies. So all I'm saying, I know that was very long, but what I'm saying is I'm tired of living in a world where people are very two-faced, where they're saying one thing, their actions are clearly showing another, their motives are right in your face, but people will still be like, oh no, it's fine. But then at the same time, they know, and it trickles all the way down to individuals, and it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, it's, I think a lot of people feel like there's no other option, right? They're like, well, these are the only options I have. And so I'm going to pay for either one or two options. Same with the political party process. They're like, well, these are the only options. Then make a new option. And kind of with the individual thing, I knew a person that they were all like, yeah, these people are judgmental towards me and I just want to include everyone and welcome everyone. But then she was like, can you believe that they were wearing that to that? And I'm like, well, hold on. You're kind of switching up your tune. Like, I don't like that either. I don't like two-faced people who are just going to be like, yeah, people who talk a good game and then their actions don't line up. It's kind of like, hold up, like, oh yeah, like I'm going to be about this and this and this. But then are you really? Like, I kind of attribute, like you said, to Starbucks, where it's like, oh yeah, we love the environment. We want to take care, but you're making your employees work on Christmas and Thanksgiving and, like, come on now. So
Yeah.
and even too, I feel like, and this is a whole nother rabbit hole, I feel like people are not thinking for themselves. So they are just like, I'm just going to buy whatever's put in front of me. Prime example, everyone wanted to clown Kendrick about the Super Bowl halftime show. They were like, that was trash. That was garbage. Like, when is there time for some real talent? But like, if you look at his performance and the thought that he put into it and the artistry and all that, like, that takes some deep level thinking to understand the hints and the cues that he's giving you. But I think people just want to be entertained. I think that's really what it boils down to. People want to be entertained, so they're just like, oh yeah, the government's crazy. Well, now I have something to talk about at Thanksgiving, or now I have something to talk. And it's just like, it's just all entertainment to make money. That's all it is.
Yeah, and I don't know. I talked to, so I have a German grandmother, and one of the biggest thing that she does not understand, because especially where she came from, and it also has to do with the generation she's from too, but where she comes from in Germany and a lot of other countries I've noticed, and maybe this is just endemic to the United States and where we live, but a lot of other countries, they don't understand sarcasm nearly as much as we do, because what you say is what you mean. There is no in between. Like, you say what you mean, and to other, like, a lot of people, when you're talking to British people and you're in the United States, they might come across like Simon Cowell comes across as a jerk. But really, in reality, that's how people, it's like, if you have no talent, they're going to tell you, hey, you shouldn't be here. Don't quit your day job. You have no talent. But here in the United States, we don't do that. Instead, we'll prop these people up and go, oh, no, you're great. You're fantastic, just to watch them and clown them all the way through. Like, I mean, I'm giving that Simon Cowell example. I remember him like I didn't watch American Idol too much, but when it was very popular, I remember my parents watching it as a kid. And I always remember in the very preliminary going through the first rounds, and even like America's Got Talent and things like that, there will be people who are absolutely terrible. And you're going, how did they get on TV? It's like just to be clowned. That's all that they're here for. They're here as a source of entertainment. Like that William Hung guy, you remember, he was singing that stupid song, and like he was popular for forever, but it was just because they were clowning on him, and he made it like through several rounds instead of just like, hey, buddy, you have no talent. You're a terrible singer. I understand that you want to be a singer. Go work on it and come back, But I think that's the point that we're at, is like, it's that two-facedness of, hey, we'll keep you going. And unfortunately, it's always at that other person's expense, because they're sitting here thinking, man, I actually am good. I do have some talent. And it's like, they don't understand that they're getting clowned on most
They're
of the
getting
time.
clowned because they're like, it would be boring if it was just all good singers. You have to have a comedy factor. It's like, even if you watch reality shows, the person that's like the mean or starts the drama, that's what makes money. People will be like, oh, I can't believe so-and-so flew off the handle again on this show. I gotta watch and see what they're gonna do next. And it's like they're the jester, and that's what makes money.
And so I do understand that factor, and I do understand the entertainment factor, but where I think I have the biggest problem, going back to the individual portions of it, is why bring that into your personal life? People clown your friends, people clown their relatives, people clown these other people, and it's like, there's no point for that. Or even they'll set people up for failure just to make them look bad so that they'll look better, and clown them and be like, look, see, they were nothing. They were a piece of crap when you trusted them. And I think that's the whole thing, is we're supposed to trust our politicians. We don't have that trust anymore because they've clowned us so many times. We're supposed to trust corporations, but they've clowned us so many times. We know it's just an exchange of money. Even our jobs, we know, like, it used to be, hey, you stay here 30, 40 years, that company's loyal to you, you're loyal to the company. But guess what? Those companies have clowned people so many times to the point where it's like, we don't give a crap about you. And we've made that very clear, to where it's like, nobody gives a crap about anybody, even in their own personal lives. And it's just gotten to a point where it's just ridiculous. And so that's what fries my donuts in a whole sum there. But, pretty crazy.
Different breed. I'm like, if you're real with me, what did you say? What did Riley say? Real recognize real. And you're looking kind of
unfamiliar right now. Yeah, exactly. And so my thing is, that is a good segue. And so we are actually doing a new segment this week, Christopher. We did it during our New Year's celebration there, but we're going to call this the Square Donut, because, have you ever seen Square Donuts in stores and things like that? So we're going to call this the Square Donut, and it's going to represent a screen or a television, because we're going to do our video clip of the week. Now, we're going to show the video clip of the week, and then we're going to talk about it shortly thereafter. And this video title is, I'm Not Gay No More, I Am Delivered. So let's go ahead and play that.
Do you believe that the Lord tonight has set you free?
Yes, sir.
Turn around and tell those people.
Tell them.
I'm not gay no more. I am delivered. I don't like men no more. I said I like women. Women. I said women. I'm not gay. I would not date a man. I would not carry a purse. I would not put on makeup. I will love a woman. Now, listen, y'all praise God with him. Hold on, wait a minute. Somebody believe God with him. Hey! We don't just preach condemnation. We preach reconciliation. and dance with him and tell him you can do it in the name of Jesus. Hey! That's right. When I tell you, I want you to run down towards that camera and tell them I got a brand new life. Run right now. Run. Because it's in front of you. Glory to God. Somebody shout better.
Chris, that's one of my favorite videos. I know it's one of your favorite videos. It's one of those where I'll be real with you. I had a pretty hard week, and I found myself going back to watching this video and just having a little chuckle. So, Chris, you want to talk about this video?
Yeah. So some coworkers that I work with show me this video, and I'm not laughing at the content of the message. I think the guy's heart is in the right place. But what's funny is if you read the comments are what make it hilarious. And so it's really, I think it's because we grew up kind of in an environment where like the show and like, you know, it's like, come on, like I need some shown up believers. And it's like,
Yeah.
Hey,
I
buddy.
need some show enough believers. And I think a lot of the thing too, and this is my theory, Chris probably doesn't feel this way. You can go into it as well. But the environment that we grew up into, you know, the music's pumping, they've been talking, they've been pumping you up for hours, right? And so what you've been told is wrong. You start thinking like, maybe I should change my life. And like, you're really all about it in that moment. And so I think what it is like, at least for me and what resonates in me is I've had a few of those moments where it's just like, you know what, I'm giving it up today. And it's just like, but at the same time, you could tell that it's more for the show. And I'm not saying that this guy did it for the show. It's not really that. But a lot of the other bit about it is all performative. You can tell. It's like they make the dudes get out there and start dancing with them. And it's just like, oh, come on now.
What's funny is the remixes. A remix is hilarious of that video. That's what I enjoy more than the actual video.
Yeah, I think what makes this video so great is the rabbit hole that comes thereafter, because I guarantee you probably even some of the people that are watching this that have never seen this, it's a pretty viral clip, so I'm sure there's been a lot of people that have seen this, but I think that there are going to be people that'll see this and go, oh man, I haven't seen this. Go check out some of the remixes. This guy has even so after this video went viral, he did a few interviews and things. And according to him, he's still not gay no more. He's got a girlfriend and all sorts of stuff, so good for him. But he was even on an episode of Wild 'N Out with
yeah, I saw that.
and all sorts of stuff. It's just like, so he's gotten some like spots and whatnot. He had his little 15 minutes of fame from this. I couldn't imagine, because we've had plenty of church services like that. I mean, never had the whole thing of like getting on stage and whatnot, but being on camera where you're talking with the pastor and you can be pulled on stage and hey, you could say something and all of a sudden it just goes viral, because that's pretty much what happened to the guy. So it's pretty insane, but that's our video clip of the week. It's pretty good, I think. So, all right, Chris, you ready to move into our last segment, which is our Eclair segment, which is our positive advice for the week on this Monday. Now, Chris, I did the last time when we did a regular scheduled programming, so I'll let you go ahead and kick her off.
Yeah, and my positive advice is going to be kind of cliche, but it's just be yourself, because you never know who is benefiting from you just being you. Like, God created all of us differently, uniquely, wired us differently, and so there's only one you, right? So a lot of times, and I deal with this a lot, like I'm trying to be someone else or lead like someone else or do my job like somebody else, but really, if I just do it like me, like people will benefit from it. And so in this season, I'm learning like it's okay to be me, and it's really weird because people are like, hey, like you did this really well. And I was like, I don't know what I did, but like, thanks, I guess. Just be you, and you are enough because God made you the way that he made you. So just be yourself. Now, granted, there's always things that we can improve on and work on and everything, but a lot of times we fall into imposter syndrome or trying to do things like somebody else, but God made you the way that he made you. And so just be yourself. That's all I gotta say.
Absolutely. Now, we never confer on the Eclair donut that we have each week, but mine is similar. Life isn't about having it all figured out. So a lot of times we feel like, hey, we got to have it all figured out. We got to have the job figured out. We got to have next steps figured out. And again, I think a lot of it is because, going back to what fries my donuts, is a lot of people up at the top, that standard that people set a lot of the times makes you feel like, hey, this guy's got it all figured out. They've got it all figured out. These corporations have it all figured out. They're all making money. How am I not making money? Or how am I not doing as well as they are? Or whatever the case is. But you don't have it all figured out. A lot of life is just about showing up, being consistent, and growing a little bit every day. I will say this. If you're having a hard time with a direction, one of the hardest things I've had to deal with in life is I'm a long-term thinker. I can think about goals long-term, and I can see the very end of the line, and I can think about every step along the way, but I always look at the end, not the next step. And so I always have to stop myself and say, listen, Rome was not built in a day. Rome wasn't built in a day. It was built one brick at a time. You keep laying the bricks and you lay them consistently, and you keep setting these goals and small goals. Yes, it's good to have the long-term goals, but what is that next brick of a goal? So you set that next brick of a goal. Before you know it, it will be built, and it'll be built better than you can imagine. But it's, it doesn't all have to be built in a day. Okay. Doesn't have to be built in 2 days. Sometimes it takes years. Sometimes it takes a lifetime to build certain things. So don't be discouraged. You'll accomplish it. Just do it one brick at a time.
Yeah. There's actually a famous pastor that just did a message on this, and he was talking about how, like, if you go up a staircase, just take it one step at a time. Because if you look too far ahead and you're not looking at the steps in front of you, you're going to trip on the way up.
Absolutely.
So that's a really good piece of advice. So yeah, man,
absolutely.
It's been a great show. Tell them about your channel, about all the things. I'm not an aviation guy, but I'm excited for you and what you got. So tell them whatever you want to tell them.
Man, tell them. Now, so I actually changed the name. Remember, we talked about Trash Can Travel, and I've pumped that a ton and whatnot. But just like we talked about the Eclair just a moment ago, it's good to have goals, and sometimes it's good to pivot. When, something, it's good to stay fresh sometimes. And so we changed Trash Can Travel. So now it's Fly Guy Micah. It's at Fly Guy Micah if you're looking over there. So the channel, you might have noticed if you're already following it, the channel name has changed. It's got my gorgeous picture in front of a nice little plane there. So, if you're interested in all of that, go over there, check it out. I got some pretty fantastic content coming out. I've got some exclusive things coming out. So I do work somewhat near an Air Force base where there are plenty of very exotic, crazy planes that come in that not a lot of people get to see. So I'm filming those things, and it's over on my channel if you want to see those. I've got some other big things that Chris knows about that's coming out over there as well. So go ahead and see that. You can also still search the Trash Can Network, and that's going to bring you over to the Doughnut Box Podcast. However, it is also at the Doughnut Box Pod, at the Doughnut Box Pod, and that's DOUGHNUT Box POD. And so either one will take you over there, and you'll see all of our branding over there. We've, I wouldn't say we've retired the Trash Can branding. That's still the umbrella brand, if you will. But at the same time, we're making sure that we are defined in what we do. And we want to make sure that the podcast grows, because we appreciate all of you that are here. But I know just as much as you love it, there's a lot of other people out there that love it just as well. And so we want to make sure that they can find us, and it looks fantastic. So you'll see those things. I'm super excited in the direction it's going. In fact, since we've changed some of the branding, we've already had some more followers and a few more views than normal. So, hey, who knows? We'll keep building one brick at a time and see what happens over time, and see what kind of Rome we get to build over here.
Well, it's been a wonderful show, and I think it's time for the Starship to take us out. I'm Chris.
And I'm Micah.
And this is the Doughnut Box Podcast.
Bye.